It's November. That means it's Christmas time. No, I worked retail all through high school and all through university. So while the wounds are starting to heal, Christmas can start firmly on December 1st. And if I hear Mariah Carey's one day before November 20th, I might just lose my mind. But honestly though, this year has been such a shit show, so if having a solid 2-month-long Christmas is what's going to make you happy, please feel free to do so. I am trying to continue to channel my summer vibes, even though the forecast is calling for snow today. But the holiday season not really being in effect certainly did not stop Netflix from releasing this holiday rom-com starring Emma Roberts at the end of October, when there's clearly no other major holiday in October that people get like really into watching movies for. But anyways, Holidate is the fresh, new, boundary-pushing while still being incredibly cheesy, cliched holiday rom-com sensation that is sweeping Netflix. And what holiday, might you ask? All the holidays! And I'm sure you're wondering how something can be boundary pushing while also cliched, but that's just more what parents seem to be thinking in some of the reviews I've read. Even though this is rated TVMA, which is for mature audiences, i.e. adults, I've noticed some upsetty parents due to the crude humor utilized in this film. Cause yeah, this really isn't for kids in the same way that like 40-Year-Old Virgin and Forgetting Sarah Marshall are not for kids. But we'll bring a little bit of attention to Belinda here, woeful and should be rated R due to sexual discussions not for 15-year-olds. Disgusting. Belinda, TVMA is an R rating. Okay, I guess it's actually rated 15 in the UK, but I also don't think that there's anything said or done in this movie that would be inappropriate for a 15-year-old to encounter. They're high school students. They've heard these words before. But that aside, this movie was kind of a little bit of a weird experience because I do actually think the chemistry between the leads was really good. It is still just a pretty run-of-the-mill rom-com that has a slight variation on a very well-known trope. Instead of being friends with benefits, you have a set date that you bring to family holidays so they don't think you're a loser. Because clearly not having a date for St. Patrick's Day is the end of the world and you will bring shame to your family. There's some logistical issues that we'll end up going over, but for now, let's get into the movie. It starts with Sloane, who hates the holidays because her family is way too fixated on the fact that she's not settled down yet or at least seeing someone. But man, what a cool name Sloane is. I wish my name was Sloane. Anyways, she's talking to her aunt, Kristen Chenoweth, who I feel like I haven't seen since her stint as an alcoholic on Glee. But either way, she tells Sloane about her Holidate system, as in a no-stress date that you bring to family events so that they don't judge you. But then that date also doesn't expect more from you in return. Because typically when you bring people on holidays to bring families, they think that's like pretty serious. But where this kind of starts getting derailed is that your family is also going to think it's serious unless you tell them what's going on, which is exactly what happens in this movie. So honestly, what's the point of this if your family's still going to be judging you for not being in a serious relationship and they're still gonna be harassing you by trying to set you up with dates? Like I get for New Year's or Valentine's, you just kind of have somebody that you can have fun with and go out and not just dwell on this couples thing. But for me, it kind of goes out the window with the family stuff. They also specify when they're setting up the rules for this that it will absolutely not be a friends with benefits situation. There will be no sex, there will be no intimacy so that nobody can catch feels. Anyways, Sloane's clearly having a little bit of a rough go in relationships because she lays this on a 6-year-old.
You're gonna catch Levi sharing his juice box with a Starbucks barista named Rainbow. Yeah.
And just when you thought that the worst part of her evening was going to be getting these oversized pajamas, her little brother proposes to his girlfriend of 6 months. So if the mom wasn't uppity about her settling down before, that's just the level of existential dread Sloane needs. But then it cuts over to our Australian lead that honestly sounds exactly like a Hemsworth, and I'm not just saying that because he's Australian, I just mean like everything in his voice sounds like a Hemsworth. But he's our Australian lead, lost in America, who's gone to Christmas with someone he's kind of been seeing, but she clearly thinks it's very serious. And her parents clearly think it's very serious because they got matching Christmas sweaters. And it's obviously because he agreed to go to their intimate family dinner. So before he can protest too much, she makes it all better with a quick blowy and then it's time for gifts. Also, this isn't a holiday issue. This is a this girl does not respect your boundaries issue. And holy shit, he didn't bring a gift. Because apparently they had decided ahead of time that they weren't gonna do the Christmas gift thing. But here she is with 3 different sized khakis for him.
So you know me well enough to come in my mouth, but you don't know me well enough to get me a Christmas present?
Yeah, I can't imagine why Belinda ever thought this was appropriate for children. So he obviously bails, but takes the pants, and then decides to return them. And would you look at that, Sloane's there too.
What makes you think I don't have a job?
You're at the mall on a Wednesday, returning soccer pants.
So they start to share their bad Christmas stories, and I think Sloane has him beat with,
And catching my aunt getting her cookie licked by a mall Santa.
and then they get to talking, and then they see the aforementioned Santa in the mall, and she gets to explain to him the concept of a holidate. And he's like, oh my god, that's a great idea, let's do it. I have nothing to do on holidays. I definitely want to go to random families' places. And she's really not down at all until her mom tries setting her up with a next door neighbor for New Year's, so she agrees to attend a major party with him instead. So they end up going to this big New Year's party together. They're making fun of different couples together. He's just really happy that he can just flat out say that her tits look nice in the dress, and she's just happy that she can dress slutty even though she's not, and she shouldn't be worried about that. But they start to talk about their views on dating, and she talks about her ex and how great he was, and she's obviously super upset that it ended, but they're having a great time and start dancing. And then Time of My Life from Dirty Dancing starts to play, and we get a full and everyone clapped moment on the dance floor, and he actually manages to do the big hold her up, big finishing move, and then she flashes her tatas to everyone, and they fall over, and he goes to the bathroom while she ices her boob. But he ends up missing the ball drop, and she's kind of like bummed that she's not experiencing that moment of the night with everyone. And he comes back and he's like, oops, sorry, because her tender little kiss on the cheek. And immediately wants to start planning for Valentine's. And she's like, look, that's like 2 months away. So, I might be set by then. But lo and behold, it's Valentine's Day and she is still alone helping plan for the brother's wedding. But it's fine. She's got big solo plans.
You can't watch porn on Valentine's Day. You should especially watch porn on Valentine's Day.
So she bails out on the judgment after the sister and the fiance are like, aw, you should turn mall guy into a regular thing. You guys could be a cute couple. You said you have fun. So she just goes to get some chocolate to eat away her pain and runs into her ex. And if there's one thing you don't want to do is run into your ex who ended the relationship on Valentine's Day while you were scarfing down chocolate while he is there with his new boo. Probably not a good time, but luckily, as all this is happening, Jackson walks by and realizes what's happening because he recognizes the John Lennon glasses that Sloane described her ex as having, and he runs in to save the day and then asks for a hand job in return. But then it's actually just him feeling guilty about eating chocolate in her car because he doesn't do that as a serious professional athlete golfer. So they finally decide to set themselves up as holidates until further notice to avoid such awkward situations as running into your ex on Valentine's Day. Which is honestly the only benefit I'm seeing right now, because her having a fake date certainly has not stopped her family from trying to set her up on dates or nag her about being single. So they do St. Patrick's Day together, realizes that he's been giving her brother golf lessons for almost a year, and the brother's fiance doesn't even realize that he golfs at all. So that bodes super well for that relationship, but then even the sister is all like, what is the point of even doing this holiday thing if there's nothing more serious coming down the line? Because again, it doesn't make sense from the family standpoint. Unless it really is just to have companionship on a holiday, but Sloane kind of gives in after her mom keeps harassing her, and her mom never stops harassing her. Because it immediately cuts to a scene from Easter where kids are running down the hill to collect eggs to move, which... very interesting music choices in this. And then even though Sloane told her mom she was bringing Jackson, the mom still invites the neighbor Dr. Farouk over. So that whole bring a date around for holidays so your family doesn't judge you or try to meddle in your affairs is just going so well. The fun events are cool because it's stress-free companionship, because for whatever reason this movie doesn't include any just, friends. But then it's Jackson's turn to reveal his heartbreak and why he's hesitant to start a new relationship. So we got 2 wounded souls here with great chemistry. Man, I wonder what the conclusion of this rom-com's gonna be. I'm not judging it for doing that. Rom-coms have expected outcomes, and there's a lot of really great ones that I love. I'm just weaving the story. So it's Cinco de Mayo, and they're drunk and talking about sex, and she's saying oh, you're trying to trick me into this. You wish you could find out how good I am. And he's like, guess we'll never find out. Then they just keep pounding down shots and then wake up the next morning. And then she's half naked on the floor, but wearing his underwear. But they can't tell if they had sex.
Well, there's no forensic evidence. Nothing's dried on my leg. There's no wrapper on the floor.
So yeah, that whole scene could have been skipped, I imagine. It's really weird that they were just randomly did we not? Do we? That's a very weird scene to have included in this, and I just... I don't know. But either way, she brings him to Mother's Day brunch, which just seems like the last one that you would ever really need to bring him to, but the mom's just super upset that they're not more serious and thinks that he's stringing her along.
She doesn't need another friend. She needs a husband. Someone who is legally bound to be there during the chemo.
What chemo?
You have bad genes.
She's also pretty horrible, and then asks why they're not having sex while comparing it to how escargot may seem weird at first, but when you try it, hey, it's not so bad.
Did you just compare sex with me to eating slugs?
So they're like, hey, you're right. Where's the nearest bathroom? Because, you get jokes when you meddle. And then it's suddenly the 4th of July. And that's part of the reason why this movie ends up starting to feel so long, because they're just trying to get every single holiday they possibly can. But after making a bunch of jerk-off firework euphemisms, Jackson accidentally blows off his finger, which is kind of an issue because he's a professional golfer, but don't worry, it'll barely be an inconvenience. So to calm him down, they start smoking pot in the hospital, and it makes her super flirty with the doctor, who, surprise, is Farouk. And would you look at that, Jackson seems a little bit upsetto from the flirtation. And then they totally have a moment when their hands touch in his apartment. And they both know it, and they're both kind of panicking a little bit about it. And because her brother's wedding falls on Labor Day weekend and they've both been invited separately, they kind of assumed they were gonna go together, but his friend kind of convinces him like, no, like, you gotta nip this in the bud. If she's catching feelings, you have to bring a different date. So she's obviously upset and brings Farouk, and he brings her aunt. And oh boy, is she ever upset and just instantly tries to make him jealous. And come on, Farouk seems like a really nice guy with a lot to offer. If you're not interested, you don't have to put him through this. Then we get this really awkward scene where the aunt is like making out and biting his finger, which is weird no matter the context, but she's really just trying to test the fact that he says he has no feeling in that finger anymore, which again should be a major issue for golfing, but whatever. So after a bit of back and forth as to whether or not he's going to sleep with her aunt, they have to break up the daddy-daughter dance because they chose to set it to a song about fornication. And then they see Farouk and the aunt getting down on the dance floor, and they're clearly into each other, so guess what?
Any ideas for Halloween?
Already on it.
Okay, so we're officially almost through all of the holidays. If this was Canada, we would have already skipped over Thanksgiving. But they go out for a big Halloween party, and Sloane brings her married sister, and of course, they run into her ex, who has gotten his new girlfriend very pregnant. And at first it seemed like she was like, phew, dodged a bullet. That could have been me. But she's actually really upset. And she's just like, oh my god, I'm not with anybody, and he got his newer, hotter girlfriend pregnant. Oh my god, the math checks out. They conceived on Valentine's. So like, am I just not an adjusted adult? Because I was like, that's a win for you, queen. That could be you on the fertility train. But either way, he takes her home because she's panicking and no Holidate gets left behind. But surprise, those antacids her sister has been giving her all night were actually laxatives. Like, how do you mess that up when the bottle has it in giant bold letters? So she gets the gurgles and they can't get her out of her dress.
Don't let me be the girl who shits her pants.
So it seems like they get it off just in time, but she doesn't make it. But he's so kind and he stays and he hoses her off and he's looking at her with all like warmth and affection, and they have a nice little tender moment together and then fall asleep overnight and then wake up in the morning and she's like, oh my god, I always hate it when they do morning kisses in movies, but then they do it anyways, and then they do it anyways. But then she's immediately like, hey, don't feel obligated to stay. Like, Halloween is over. And then he's confused because he was like, no, like, I meant that, but they don't really have time to talk about it because the sister comes over being like, oh my god, I kissed the friend. I'm a horrible wife and mother. So he leaves so that she can deal with that. And he's like, oh my god, she basically pushed me out the door. I don't know what to do. Which she did, but it's mostly just because she's afraid of getting too close to him and doesn't want to change the nature of that dynamic. And then he's kind of like, well, I'm probably gonna have to end things after Thanksgiving because I don't want to put up with this. But he gets there for the Thanksgiving meal and they have to go get a new turkey, but then they get into a fight in the grocery store because he tries to talk to her seriously about things and she's like, I'm not even your type. You said you're not even attracted to me. Girl, he hosed you down after you shit yourself and still wanted to stick around. I think it's okay. And then we get into the cliche town of, well, I couldn't just tell you I was attracted to you the first time I saw you, and that I think that you're actually very attractive and that your eyes made me forget my name.
You're trying so hard not to feel anything, and that makes you an asshole.
So she tells him off, says, good luck with everything that you're doing. And he's like, well, at least I won't be alone. Guys, look, it's okay to be alone on major holidays. Your self-worth does not come from another person wanting to be in a relationship with you, or even just going on a date on that day with someone that you don't actually care about. Like, she still has her family, and people have friends, and all sorts of different relationships that are different and sometimes better than a significant other in these situations. It's better to be alone and okay with yourself than trolling around for someone who'll just give you a smidgen of attention because it's a holiday. You're worth more than that. So she gets back home and the mom is super sympathetic.
I knew it! No leaf!
But her sister won't let it drop and is like, no, what did you do? He was into you. So Sloane gets upset and just kind of like lets it spill out that's like, yeah, well, you kissed his friend. Just as the husband walks back in the room. But don't worry, that will also become a non-issue because the story isn't about the sister's infidelity. But either way, the aunt's date, who actually seems super interested in the mom, ends up having a heart attack. And Sloane goes to the hospital with her aunt and asks why she didn't keep things going with Farouk and realizes the aunt's essentially been pushing away love her entire life, which is what she's been doing too, and especially what she's been doing with Jackson. So her aunt realizes what she does, gets back with Farouk, and then Sloane just continues to be depresso into the Christmas season. And then, in a full circle kind of way, they run into each other at the mall, going in opposite directions on the escalators. And she's like, no, it's over, I can't do it. And her niece is like,
Aunt Salome, life is giving you a moment. Don't fuck it up.
So we pivot hard into Hallmark Town, and so she's running after him, screaming his name, which just immediately flashed me right back to Dummy with the
Jackson! 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 Will you please just fuck my sex doll?
So she finally gets his attention with the help of the choir, and then starts to profess her love and how she messed up with some profanities because, like, this isn't Hallmark as much as it might feel like it right now. But they literally have Santa over here tearing up the declaration, which was a bit heavy-handed for the moment, and just again brought me full back to the Hallmark cheese. But then, of course, they snap us away from this yet again with the comment about chemo.
You're the only one I'd want to go through chemo with. No, I'm fine.
So this is so cheesy and really feels like, you know, when they do parodies of rom-coms in other pieces of media. But goddamn, did I ever still smirk when he pulled the fake out.
Nah.
And then it's all happily ever after. He takes her to visit his family in Australia. The sister and her husband start to go do things. The mom gets with the aunt's Holidate. Farouk and the aunt are good. And we get all of these updates with an amazing green screen backdrop. Travel just wasn't in the budget for this movie, which, yeah, I can't blame them. So that's Netflix's Holidate. It's quite cliche. Some jokes really don't land and just seem awkwardly included.
Seared into my brain like a bad tattoo.
I got a bad tattoo once.
Is that Matt Lauer?
It has some pacing issues because they really want to make sure you see every single holiday. But the holiday with the leads is good enough that, hey, this is nowhere near the worst rom-com experience or holiday movie I've ever seen. But kind of like I mentioned earlier, I take issue with the fact that, like, no one really has friends. Like, Jackson has his one friend, but they work together. But Sloane doesn't have any friends, which is why in a lot of these situations, she's replacing who would have been the friend that you would go hang out with a fake date. Overall, this is just a weaker Friends with Benefits with a flipped concept. A little bit of a harder steer into crude comedy, which families are gonna have an issue with if they think this is kind of like, hey, this is a good family movie for us to all watch, which, you know, for depending on how old your kids are, this is a good family. Oh, I'd watch this with my parents. But again, flip so that there's really no sexy times and it's all family times. And again, that big ol' at least I won't be alone moment in the grocery store, trash. Because you know what? Being alone and honest with yourself and cool with yourself is better than just generically picking some random person to bring around as a date. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Let me know what you guys are thinking of this movie. It's not the best, it's not the worst, which kind of makes it hard to really lay into. I know a lot of people really hated this, and a lot of people actually really enjoyed this. I'm kind of like right middle of the road. This is a perfectly average movie. So let me know what you guys are thinking in the comment section down below. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters. Some of you guys are so incredibly generous, and it honestly means the world. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.